Greetings, Diocese of Olympia, and all those watching today. Over my nearly 10 years as your bishop, we have always had a high priority on multicultural ministry in this diocese, which includes many things, but most prominently anti-racism training, direct service, advocacy, and building up ethnic congregations. It has evolved in that time from the excellent work of Canon Jerry Shigaki, the Reverend Carla Robertson, and others, and the most recent work of Canon Arienne Davison. During Arienne's time, she and I have tried to envision this work in a way that is not so compartmentalized, even siloed. We have realized the very real danger of this becoming another, quote, project for us, rather than a lived, incarnated reality that runs through the DNA and bloodstream of the diocese and reaches every corner of it. Something that is a core value of who we are, and not just an added or attached, fenced-off work which is for some, but not everyone. Because we believe this has to be work and a reality for all of us. That, of course, is not easy. It's not easy because it's not the way we're used to doing it, seeing it, living it. It's not easy because we don't have many models that show how that particular vision can become a reality in the church, but even beyond. It's not easy because we truly have a belief that if we assign a title, a task, and some money to an issue, we will see it pervade the diocese, our people, become a way of living. But we all know that does not necessarily follow. And so we're attempting a new way of doing this work, and I hope with this video to discuss it more with Arienne so you might understand more of the intent of the changes and the reality of them too. And so we might continue what will be an ongoing dialogue and learning for us all as we attempt to make this conscious and fairly monumental shift. It is a great delight to have Canon Arienne Davison with me. She's Canon for Multicultural Ministries and will be until June 30th. So her time in that office is coming to a quick end. I just want to thank Arienne for the excellent leadership that she's given to this office and her challenges to me, her teaching of me, and teaching of this diocese too. Thank you very much for that. I want us to use this time to talk about some of the changes that you and I have thought about and prayed about and envisioned over these last few years and that we're trying to embark on right now. And I think the first thing I would ask is just for you to share a little bit this kind of journey we've been on and where we find ourselves right now and what we're going to try.
From the beginning in this position, it was different than the previous imagining of the ethnic missioner position. It was going to be a person who was embedded in a congregation and was doing this work at the diocesan as well as more local level. And so as part of that, then it was a more decentralized vision, a vision that was taking a lot of the work out of the boardroom, out of D-House into other places. And I think, too, it was one that was meant intentionally to have less efforted hours in staff positions so that we could share the work more broadly among congregations and other governing bodies and other members of the diocese. So from that DNA, then changes have been made over the course of the last 6 years, like the creation of a multicultural grants committee that really shares the work of allocating the diocesan resources given to congregations that are doing the work of ethnic and multicultural ministries and working to build the body of Christ in those local ethnic communities. It's also been a process of figuring out how to enrich leadership and develop leadership around the diocese so that all leaders have more competency when it comes to intercultural work. And so we've done that through anti-racism and work in contextualizing our anti-racism programming. We've also done some work to be more intentional about how we support ethnic congregations so that they'll be able to interface with our cultural institution, which is the Episcopal Church, an expression of Anglicanism, which has a culture cooked into its way of being.
Right. Some of the practical changes are new points of contact for people Can you talk a little bit about what those would be?
Sure. So for something like the Multicultural Grants Committee, our Canon to the Ordinary, Marna Steedman-Sanborn, is going to be working with the existing Multicultural Grants Committee as their staff contact to help receive grant applications, interview congregations, and allocate those grants. Canon Marta, as well as Canon Alyssa Newton, are going to help deploy consultants and other people who have specialized training in intercultural work to help our ethnic and multicultural congregations grow in their faithfulness and vitality. Also, in terms of communicating the stories of our ethnic and multicultural congregations, our newer communications director, Josh Hornbeck, is going to be working directly with a lot of those communities to help them tell their stories and share them with the wider diocese and the wider church.
How can people in the diocese, congregations in the diocese, interact with, help, get to know our ethnic congregations?
That is a great question. And honestly, some of the political realities that we're facing right now have led to real questions among, I know, people in my congregation or other congregations I've interacted with, but how we can be supportive of refugees, how we can be supportive of immigrants or people of color, Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. One of the dangers we face is actually, if we're not good at being with people that aren't like us, we can pity people that aren't like us. Mm-hmm. And especially those of us who have means, or those of us who are well educated. It's sometimes easy for us to give money or say, I'm with you. Or even, as one minister who I interacted with said, someone came up to her and gave her a hug and was crying and said, I'm so sorry for you. And this woman's response was, don't feel sorry for me. Come worship with me and help me serve our community. And this is, I think, the best way we can companion with our brothers and sisters in Christ. And I would say I've talked to a lot of our ethnic congregations and have some information that we'll include on our website. They would love for congregations and members of the diocese to come be a part of their worship, to break bread together, to celebrate the many wonderful things God has done in binding us together, and to think more deeply about how to serve our shared communities in a way that is respectful and authentic.
Yeah. So how do you connect? You connect. You
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, you go.
I would say, having the great honor and privilege of being in these congregations on a fairly regular basis, it will be a great blessing if you do it.
Well, and I would say too, interfaith dialogue is really important and it's wonderful. And I mentioned sort of this developmental context. I think a lot of us are probably really uncomfortable being with other Episcopalians that aren't like us.
That's right.
And it may be a good first step for a lot of our congregations to try this first.
Yeah.
Try worshiping, if you're in a very wealthy congregation, with people who are poor. Mm-hmm. If you're from a congregation that's predominantly white, try worshiping with a refugee congregation or one of our Latino congregations and experience what that's like.
And every one of those scenarios you just listed, we have an option.
We do.
we can send you somewhere specifically for you to get that. We might as well be honest. Some people are going to hear this and think this is a, what should we say, a well-engineered, great optic way to stop doing multicultural ministry.
Well, I would say a couple things. The first is if taking a position out of a staff stopped multicultural ministries in the diocese, then we weren't doing it anyway. But I also would say, for myself, in the past 6 years, we actually have worked on developing the intercultural competency of governing bodies and of the staff, and particularly since we've been availing ourselves of the developmental continuum as a model for understanding how we interact with other people. We're weaving this more deeply into our work, and I have more confidence than when I came on that the people who are in positions of leadership in the Diocese of Olympia can do it.
Yeah.
I really believe this is the time for us to start moving towards trusting local congregations in their own context to do the work. And part of that means us actually vacating offices in D House and going out and doing the work.
Yeah.
Instead of relying on somebody else to do it.
Yeah, if you don't ever make the switch, I might put on the table that we're always going to be, in some ways, discriminating, singling out, siloing, and that the hope in this is that it's something that is important and a core value for all of us, not just some segment over here. And we're not there. I mean, we're not there. We have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like we have to make the move in order to get there, too. So.
And every step we've taken, including having an ethnic missioner canon for multicultural ministries, has been an important step in the process.
Yeah.
And we can't stop there, because then we've all abdicated our work as Christians or as members of the diocese.
Yeah.
And our vision as we're moving forward is about that local work, about how people embody Christ in their particular places. And I think the longer we concentrate that energy here at D House, it actually makes it harder for people who need to do the work to do the work.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it's akin to the danger of naming a greeting team for a church, because then everyone else thinks they're off the hook.
Right.
What we're trying to say is, no, we're all multicultural ministers. We're all multicultural missioners. All of us are supposed to be, not one person or one office or one position. And I think that's an important shift.
I would say, so the early church corollary that I've been thinking about lately would be if of the 12 disciples, we decided they were all going to stay in Rome. And they were all going to hang out there. And, if they didn't talk to people that weren't like them, it would be the church that we saw in the early church. And we wouldn't have, Christians in India and Christians in China and Christians in Africa and now Christians in the Americas.
Yeah.
That part of the work of Jesus is actually us getting better and better at doing that core activity, which Paul describes so eloquently, right? That being with people that aren't like us to persuade them that there's hope.
Arienne, thank you for the work you've done to do that for us and to help us move closer to that. And you're still doing it and still will be doing it in a different way and without this title, for which we're very, very grateful. And thank you for being here today, too.
You're welcome.